If God decides that I don't need nightmares anymore, I'll fathom out how to stop it. If God decides I need to wake up in the middle of the night in a sweat, fearful or afraid they're coming to get me, then that's God's plan for me, and that's what I'm going to deal with. I'm not a coward. I'm not afraid of any of these things. I'm not afraid of feeling bad. Now, I'm not a coward. And I want to make this very clear. I'm not a coward. I don't care if I don't sleep again for the rest of my life. I refuse to take any fucking pill, and I refuse to sit and have my mind altered by anything I do not control. I don't care if I have nightmares for the rest of human time.
Right.
As long as I'm in charge of my mind, I'm in charge of my life. If God decides that I don't need nightmares anymore, I'll fathom out how to stop it. If God decides I need to wake up in the middle of the night in a sweat, fearful or afraid they're coming to get me, then that's God's plan for me, and that's what I'm going to deal with. I'm not a coward. I'm not afraid of any of these things. I'm not afraid of feeling bad. I'm not afraid of anxiety. I'm not afraid of panic. This is one of the things I think a lot of men out there struggle with, is they're so worried and afraid of bad feelings. And to me, that's just showing that you've had an easy life. Like, there's real people out here who are trying to kill you. There's people out here who put a knife in your neck. You're scared of what? Feeling sad? Like, there's real problems. What are you worried about feeling sad for? Who gives a shit? I could feel sad for the rest of my life, and I guarantee, one, nobody would know, and two, I would be monumentally successful regardless. So why are we even talking about it? I have no fear for a negative feeling. I have fear for me not being able to provide for my children. I have fear for people who rely on me not being provided for and cared for. But I don't have I don't wake up and go, I'm worried if I might feel sad today. Who cares? Who cares? I can be happy or sad on the same day. Nobody notices, and the same things get done. Exact same amount of work gets done. Nothing changes. Am I supposed to be happy? Am I supposed to feel good?
No, it's not happy.
No, of course, but this is what I don't understand about people, especially men in the world today. Why are they so worried about being afraid? Why are they so worried about, I was afraid every time I fought.
Yeah.
I fought anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I don't let fear guide what I'm going to do. I do what I'm supposed to do regardless of how I feel. So I don't see anything wrong with feeling fearful. I don't see anything wrong with feeling stressed or under pressure or anxious. All these things men are trying to get rid of. And I talk about men specifically. I gender this because I'm a man. I don't know how it feels to be a woman. But all these things that people are trying very hard to get rid of from their brains, I don't see why they need to leave. I will argue the point that if I feel anxious and pressured and stressed and fearful, I will get more done than if I was happy. I think if I was happy, I'd just be hedonistic and just wasting my time. I think that you get a whole bunch done with these negative connotations and negative emotions, and I think that life is suffering and pain, and you're here to go through it, and the sooner you get used to the taste, the more successful you're going to be. I have no interest in trying to change the flavor, my friend. The flavor of life is pain, and I will eat all of it. And it doesn't matter if they put me back in jail or not. I'm not sitting there going, how can I be happy in jail? I will sit in jail and say, yes, this sucks. It's supposed to suck. Yes, I'm not enjoying this. Yes, I'm anxious and paranoid. And yes, that guy might stab me. And yes, I can't sleep and I miss my family. And this is what's supposed to happen to me. And this is how I become the best man I can possibly be. And I'm going to succeed regardless. If I had an affliction, I would like to be my own doctor. And I think with your mind, you can do a lot of it yourself. And I think if you have a very strict framework in how you measure how successful you are as a human, and I do it through competence and achievement, I say, which mindset do I need to achieve as much as I can possibly achieve?
Right.
I think the only thing better than having everything you want is not wanting anything, right? So I have every car on this planet. I have 40 supercars. Most people want a supercar. I have 40. But there's that unique 0.1% of people who genuinely don't want one. And I think that's more freeing than having everything you want, right? So the true mindset is not wanting anything. Most people, the best they can do is having everything they want. And I feel like you can kind of do this with the emotions as well. I guess my general consensus is that I don't think I can change or affect the world to the point where pain and suffering and bad things are not going to happen. So isn't it best if I just enjoy all of that? Doesn't that make me as powerful as possible if I say, oh yeah, okay, this is going to suck. Good. I mean, I do it when I fight. Yesterday I was fighting, right? We were doing 12 rounds and all of us were destroyed. And the more he hurt me, the more I wanted to hurt him back. The more he hurt me, the better it felt. The more powerful I felt, the more he hit me. Because then it's my turn, right? So if I can't stop him from punching me, and I'll do my best, but if I can't, then surely you should learn to enjoy it, right? And I don't think you can stop life from hitting you. And I don't think you can stop life from giving you unexpected surprises. And I don't think you can stop yourself from feeling sometimes sad or anxious or upset. So I think the best mindset you could adopt is finding that engaging and exciting. I'm not going to lie to you. Although I am facing very serious charges, and although they are trying to destroy my life, and although I cannot sleep the same, and although they're out to get me, and although I've suffered, part of me is excited. Part of me is like, okay.
Why?
Because it's a war.
You like war.
I think all men do.
I do.
Yeah, of course. All men do. Yeah. So it's a battle.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. So I'm not saying I'm glad it happened, because I'm certainly not. And I'm not saying I'm going to win, but I'm saying that I've trained myself to the point where if I were walking down the street and 10 men were to pull knives on me, I'd be intimidated, but 20% of me would go, this will be one to remember. Because if you rely on the government for food stamps, then you can't argue with the government, can you? So that's what they want. So anyone who believes in the Matrix and believes in media and believes in the lies they're told, anyone who sits there and goes, that's true, it's literally designed to make you broke. That's why it's all a scam. Do your GCSEs, do your A-levels, get in debt, go to uni, get out, get a shit job, get a mortgage. Don't worry, when you've paid that mortgage off when you're 61, then you'll have enough money to go to Spain for holiday. Then your pension comes. Oh, government doesn't have the pension money anymore. Funny enough, hedge fund stole it. Oopsie-doops. And then you wake up one day and go, whoa, I just got fucked. So the whole scam, the whole story is a lie because they want you broke. They don't want you rich. If you're rich, you won't listen to that. So all of it's a fucking lie. And intrinsically, we all know this, right? When I pull up in one of my 30 cars to a gas station and people look at me and they see a Lambo or a Ferrari or a Bugatti or a Koenigsegg, whatever I'm driving, nobody goes, wow, he went to school. No, they think drug dealer, gangster. They're thinking he broke the rules because anyone who follows the rules doesn't get shit. It's all a scam. It's all a fucking lie. So the slave minds are fucked, but those are the only ones who are too stupid to make money. Anybody who understands that the Matrix is lying to them is smart enough. So very small percent are too stupid. Inside of our school, at the height of it, before the Matrix attack, we're relaunching now, we had 175,000 students. Wow. We had 175,000 students. Maybe 2,000 we kicked out for being too stupid. It's step by step. Do this, do that, do this, and don't be lazy. Fuck. It's not that hard, right? So stupid's not the problem. So we have people who are lazy, very few are stupid, but the majority, the main reason most people are broke is because they are arrogant. I will sit here and say all the things I've said. I will do this, take time out of my life for free. Somebody at home will watch and digest it for free. They will agree with the things that are being said, or at least be entertained enough to continue to watch. And then I'll say, I'll teach you how to make money online. CobraTate.com, you can join the real world. And they'll sit there and go, nah, I'll do it myself. They're arrogant. They have these egos from fuck knows where because they didn't earn it. And they're just too arrogant to listen to anybody. I became world champion by listening to my coach. I didn't become world champion by walking in and saying, I'll do it myself. That's not how you get anywhere in life. You have to listen. If Mike Tyson were to walk in, or if Elon Musk were to walk in here and talk to me about money, I wouldn't be sitting there going, I can do that. I'd be like, oh, Mr. Elon, richest man in the world. Hello. Very nice to meet you. Please, even though I already understand I don't want to launch a car brand or put rockets in space, please, you must know some things I don't know. How do you deal with the currency fluctuations? Does inflation impact how much it costs for you to send a rocket into space? Like, I'll ask him something that's useful, right? But some people are so brutally arrogant that they'll sit here and they'll listen to all the things I said, and they'll agree that I'm intelligent, they'll agree I'm not successful, but they'll sit there and go, yeah, but you know what? I'll do it myself. I don't want to join that school. You know, I'll do it myself. They're arrogant. Everybody's fucking arrogant. I sit with people who I used to go to school with from Luton who are still broke and tell them how to make money. And you know what they do? They answer back. Yeah, but you know, it's not that simple because, you know, the wife gets the kid, and you know what? And I don't like to do things that way. The way I like to work, the way you like to work is why you're fucking broke. So what the fuck are you talking about? You just sat here and wasted 10 minutes of my time. I told you how to take your business of painting and decorating or whatever the fuck you're doing and make a serious amount of money. And now you're telling me the way you like to work? Then stay fucking broke. The fuck you want me to do? What level of arrogance? But this is people. They'll sit with a multimillionaire and tell you their view. Oh, I think that know when you're out qualified and accept it and learn. So we all do. I can't play piano for shit. The piano teacher walked in here and said, this is what you do. And I said, well, I like to move my hands this way. What kind of dumbass? But this is the arrogance people operate under. So I'd say 20% of people are lazy, 20 to 25%. A large portion of the world are not lazy. They're actually working exceptionally hard, but they're doing the wrong thing. 5% of people are too stupid. So say 25%, 5% is 30%. But 70% of people are brutally arrogant.
And this is why they are poor. That's the truth. Good question. I've talked about this already. It was an unorthodox strategy. I've talked about it at length, so I won't give the whole story because it's too long. But I identified a gap. I identified a market. I approached the scenario and the situation extremely professionally. And I worked exceptionally hard. I made my first $1 million. So my first millions came from owning a webcam studio. So I saw a little advertisement in the corner of a webpage saying, talk to live girls now. I've never been a porn guy. I'm not interested in that shit. But I was like, that's interesting. I know some girls who need some money. Boom, boom, boom. I put together this apparatus, extremely professional. No fucking sexual misconduct. No Dan Bilzerian. No threesomes. Nothing. Very professional. Very professional outfit. And I used all my business knowledge, all my life knowledge, and I applied it. I worked 22-hour days, I would say. I got to the point where I was so tired, that I said, you know what? Give me 20 minutes. And if I could hear the alarm go off, I'd get up. Sometimes I just slept clean through it, and I slept an hour or two. For months and months and months, and I built an empire. I built an insanely large empire at one point. I'm completely out of that business now, but how did I do it?
As in, did you sell it?
I didn't sell it. I just closed it all down. I moved on. I started making a bunch of money and I found other opportunities. But how did I get that opportunity? Perspicacity. First thing I said, pay attention. I paid attention. I looked at the girl. I'll give you the coffee shop example. This is what I did. I clicked on that advert. I saw the girl sitting there, miserable, waiting for a customer. I thought nobody's going to buy from an unhappy bitch. The men who are paying her are trying to escape an unhappy life, or they wouldn't be doing this shit. So when I got my girls online, smile. Happy girls get paid. That was the token. That was the slogan. Happy girls get rich. Joking. Ha ha ha. Who's you gonna pay? You're gonna pay the girls like, yeah, having a blast. So I paid attention to the competition. I saw an opportunity just at the coffee shop. For all the things they did wrong. The room was messy. Camera quality was shit. There's the basic stuff. The way the girl acted and interacted. All that stuff. And I applied it all by paying attention countless hours watching everybody else, finding the way to do it better. So I quit the coffee shop and I did it better. So I was absolutely not really perspicacious, and that's how you make money. And I did it with that, but I could have done it with anything. And now I do it with everything. The story of me sending a text message via my network and having a coffee shop is a true story. I've been in there maybe twice. I can't even go. And I have mechanisms in place to make sure I'm not robbed too badly, because unfortunately a little bit of cash goes missing. But everything's in place and it makes me money. I don't think I've even drunk my own coffee. So I put together a list. It needs to be like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. I have competent people who work for me, which is very hard to find, but I do. They understand to follow the doctrine to the doctrine. And I'm getting money into a bank account. That's it. And you can do that with literally anything. If you have a strong network and you pay attention, you can do anything. Even podcasts. We're doing a podcast right now. You guys are already big and successful at this. I'm telling you, you can look at the biggest podcasts in the world and still see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. That's the game. That's the game. And then you have to outcompete everybody else.
So you made a very interesting point there. You just said on the face of it appeared to be blatantly misogynistic. I understand that on the face of some of the long format content I've made, if you're going to take a few seconds out of hours, chop it up, put it all over social media, accompanied with my massive fame, then things can absolutely not be taken out of context. I do not hate women in any regard. I have no negative relationship with women. No women have come forward saying I've hurt them. I've no criminal record for hurting women. There's no way I can be seen as the face or the devil in regards to how men treat women on the planet. I'm absolutely and utterly the opposite. I believe in protecting and providing. I've been misunderstood. There's been large contingents of people who have tried very hard to purport lies about me. And the truth of the matter is, I've been producing content for a very long time. Hours and hours of videos been cut down to 2 or 3 seconds of clip. Those clips have gone viral and people misunderstand me. Yeah, so the point I was making was obviously at the height of the Me Too scandal, and also if we look at Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, there's been a lot of high-profile cases where men have been accused of things they did not do without evidence, and their lives have been completely and utterly destroyed. Right. When I say these things, people sit and say that, oh, he hates women. I don't hate women. I think rape is disgusting. I would take a stronger stance on rape than the British government. I think these people should face the death penalty. But to sit and say that women without evidence can go forward and just make up accusations against men, even though they've been repeatedly proven to destroy men's lives at will, completely. I'm not going to sit here as a professional and say that I can't be taken out of context. What I will say is that
one small sentence you've taken was from a 1-hour video where I explained that, of course, rape is disgusting. Of course, everybody should be punished for their crimes regardless of when they happen. But people are not perfect, male and female. And if you give women the opportunity to destroy men's lives without evidence, there's going to be a contingent of women who will do that. I'm trying to make a balanced and nuanced argument in a world where people have no attention span. They're going to take a few seconds, put it online, decide someone's good or bad, not be interested in the longer format video. And here I am. No, I'm certainly a person who takes personal responsibility. That's who I am as a person. But we live in a world now with TikTok videos 5 or 6 seconds long. There's no content. Because I made a religious point. I said that when a man marries a woman, the woman's father walks her down the aisle and hands her away to the man. Traditionally, this is what it says in the Bible. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I live in the Muslim.
I think my sister is her husband's property, yes. When a bride is walking down the aisle to marry the groom, the father walks next to her and gives her away. True or false?
Perhaps the way the reason I'm asked that question repeatedly, and I'm asked in a loaded way.
So would you rephrase what you said there?
Now that's an interesting point about phrasing. The way I would say things before I was famous, I have to take personal responsibility and accept that if I make a video that 500 people see and 1% of them misunderstand it, that's not a problem. If I make a video that 5 million people see and 1% of them understand.
So specifically on that point, I think my sister is her husband's property.
She took his last name. She married him. She wanted to join his family. She has said it herself.
Right. So she's
still a sovereign individual. Listen, my friend, if you want to argue about this, you need to go back to the Bible, to the Quran. You need to argue with religious.
No, I'm not talking about anything in the Bible or Quran.
But that's what it says.
No, I'm asking you what you think.
I think that if a woman marries a man and she decides to take his last name, that they have different roles and responsibilities within that marriage, and I believe that.
That's not the question.
I believe the father.
Don't behave like a politician.
The father hands her to the man.
Right, but don't be a politician, because I think you're a straight talker, right? You keep telling me you're a straight talker. I think my sister is her husband's property. Do you regret saying it like that?
I understand that with my newfound fame, perhaps it could be phrased differently. However, I still believe that a woman is given to the man in marriage. That's what I believe. Yeah, but that's the way that people ask me the question. People say to me, they ask the question.
Hang on, you can't blame people for asking you questions. Surely, if you want to be accountable for what you've said, you've got to own your responses. Don't blame the question.
I own the response.
It's like me asking you a question now and you say something and then say, well, actually, I blame you for asking.
I understand, Piers. Piers, I understand. I believe the woman is given to the man. I believe she's given away by the father. I believe she belongs to the man.
So fundamentally, you do believe that a woman becomes a man's property at marriage.
I believe she belongs to the man in marriage, correct?
Right.
Then let me make it very, very clear to the camera. I believe a woman is given to the man in marriage. I believe that. I also believe a man has a duty to protect and provide for her. I believe a man should lay down his life if something happens or his wife's life is threatened. I believe that women and children first are on the lifeboats.
But
I believe that men.
But a man doesn't own a woman.
It's not. No. It's okay.
Unless they literally buy them as a slave.
Well, obviously, we're not talking about that. We're talking about religious, biblical marriage. We're talking about something else. I understand that very well, Piers.
That's why people think you're a misogynist.
Completely. I understand all of this very well, which is why when you're saying I was backtracking, I'm not.
Do you have any regret, though, over the way you phrased this stuff?
Well, this is the point I was trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, when I was not nearly as famous and I was making long format content, I was not sitting there anticipating I'd become the most Googled man on the planet and that a few seconds could be taken out of context. That was not my anticipation.
No, but it's still what you believed. It's what you believe now. So what's the difference?
You're asking me, you're saying that young people who are impressed.
If you said to me, look, Piers, honestly, I've had time to think about this and I wish I hadn't said it. I don't believe that. That's one thing. Actually, you said the opposite. You said, actually, that's what I think, yeah.
I think that
it doesn't really matter whether you recorded it when you're famous or not famous. It's what you actually believe, right?
I believe that a man has a duty to protect and provide for a woman. I believe that a woman's father gives her away to the man. That's what I believe, and that's in my marriage. That's the circumstance I'm going to live under. If people want to live in a different scenario, that's completely theirs. Their prerogative.
You went on to say about authority over women. If I have a responsibility over her, I must have a degree of authority. Yeah. For the same reason, if I have responsibility over and people are going to use their mind, it's an example, an analogy. Responsibility over a child, I have to have some authority. Yeah. So you believe as part of your ownership or your property of the woman, you have authority over her.
No, I believe if you have
that's what you said.
I believe if you have responsibility over something, you have to have a degree of authority or you can't be responsible.
Yeah, but authority means, again, that you're the boss.
The point I'm making, if you'll please let me finish at this point. The point I was trying to make was talking about the safety of a woman. She was walking alone at night. And I was saying, well, I wouldn't let my woman walk alone at night. And they said, well, you're not in charge of her. You don't get to decide what she does. I said, I understand, but if I'm responsible for her safety,
and I'm the person who's burdened with making sure she is safe. I have to have the authority to say, don't put yourself in unsafe situations. The two things are linked.
Well, you don't have authority. You can absolutely have the right to say to the woman you're with, I don't think you should, but ultimately...
If she decides, then I can't force her.
Right, so authority implies that you have the ability to control someone.
No, authority implies that I have the moral right to sit and say that that's an irresponsible thing to do and I'm responsible for
That's not what authority means.
Well, I'm not going to, if you think I'm going to lock somebody up in their room, is that what you're implying?
No, I don't think you know what authority means.
I know what it means. I'm saying that
This is a different description of what authority
means. If I have responsibility for her safety, then I have to have the authority to tell her not to do unsafe.
Yeah, but authority means that you have some form of control over this woman.
I think what you're trying to
I'm only trying to get to what you think. Honestly, I am. I come with no agenda here at all.
I understand. And I'm explaining very, very clearly. If I have responsibility over said subject, I have to have authority over it. So let me say you have children, right?
Right.
You have responsibility for them.
No, I have legal authority over my children. That is very different to having legal authority over my wife or my female partner.
Completely. But the point I'm trying to make.
So you accept that?
I accept that
you used the analogy of responsibility for a child.
My friend, these are
actually really important things.
They're important things, but you interrupt me every 5 seconds. So it's hard for me to actually explain my point. The point I'm making here is very simple. You have children and you're responsible for their safety. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have authority to say, don't go out at night, perhaps because you want them to be safe.
I have legal authority.
You have a legal authority.
Yeah.
Legal authority. I'm saying that if I had a woman and the question where you've raised this soundbite from, I was asked about protecting a woman, making sure she's safe. And I would say I wouldn't want her to go out at night on her own because I'm responsible for her safety. And someone said, well, you don't have authority over her to do that. And I said, well, no, I can't force her to stay inside. But if she were to ask me, how do I protect myself at night? I would say, well, you should stay inside. That's how you should do it.
I don't have an issue with what
So we agree.
Said. No.
It's the semantics.
No, it's not semantics. And this is where I don't think you quite get why there's a furore over what you say. With respect. Because the semantics point would be if we're saying the same thing in different ways. But we're not. I'm saying to you that when you say I have to have some authority over a woman, I say to you, you have no right to any authority over a woman. You do over a child if it's your child, because you are the legal appointed guardian of that child.
Understood.
You're not a legally appointed guardian or authority over your wife or female partner.
Legally appointed, absolutely not. I agree. However, when it comes to things like personal responsibility or personal safety, men, largely by society, are accepted. We're the protectors and providers. We can sit here and pretend that in the world we live in, if me and my wife were walking down the street and men were to come up and try and attack us, I wouldn't be the one fighting. But we both know in reality I would.
Right.
I have a degree of responsibility to protect her. So if I have a degree of responsibility to protect her physically, then the point I'm trying to make is I will do my best to make sure she's never putting herself in unsafe situations.
Do you wish you hadn't used the word authority?
The authority is something that she would give to me. She would come to me and say, how can I make sure I'm as safe as possible?
But I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to point out that's not what authority means.
If someone gives, a person can give
voluntary authority is not authority.
No, but that's the point.
It's not.
Pierce.
Andrew, it's not.
Pierce, if a woman comes to me and says, I want you to keep me safe, she is handing me authority for her safety. Completely. I never said
one is consensual and one isn't.
But why are we pretending I do unconsensual things?
Because you literally say, I must have a degree of authority. I have to have some authority. And the point
only if I'm responsible for her safety. If I'm not responsible for her safety, I don't have authority.
If your position now is that with her permission, I would like to have authority when we go out at night to protect her, that's a different
That was
thing.
always my position.
But that's not what you said.
But that was always my position.
So again, I simply say to you,
It is what I said, though.
Do you wish you'd phrased it a different way?
No, because we're talking about long format copy where I'm talking about a woman who has come to me and said, you're responsible for making sure I'm safe. I said, well, then I have to make the decisions.
When an 18-year-old boy reads, I must have some authority over a woman, what do you think he thinks?
Well, I understand that. And I said this earlier when you tried to say I was backtracking, which I'm not doing.
No, actually, I'm not. I don't want to.
Okay.
I'm not trying to gotcha you.
Cool.
I'm trying to work out exactly what you actually
I understand
think.
With massive fame comes massive responsibility. I understand that a percentage of the population are always going to take everything that's said by anybody out of context.
Would you change the wording of what you said?
No, I would just encourage people to watch my long format copy and understand it
Would
fully.
you tell an 18-year-old boy you don't have authority over women?
Absolutely.
You would say that?
Unless a woman comes to him and says, you're responsible for my safety, please make sure, keep me safe. Like
I see. Now that, Andrew Tate, I can sign up to.
Well, then we agree.
Yeah, but I don't agree with what you said before.
Because you're taking a soundbite from a 2-hour conversation.
But you haven't been taken out of context, because I read you the entire sentence. It's very
Well, you've ignored all the context around the sentence, my friend.
You can't ignore a sentence that says, I must have a degree of authority.
But you can when there's a 2-hour conversation where a woman is telling me if she makes me responsible for her safety and me explaining, well, if I'm responsible for your safety, I have the authority to make decisions. So yes, you've ignored all the context.
Do you respect women?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
Do you think that 18, 19-year-old women are more attractive than 25-year-old women?
I think there's attractive people. That's a loaded question. I don't know.
Well, it's not really, is it?
I can't.
You know why I'm asking it?
Of course I do, but I can't sit here and
for
say.
For the benefit of viewers who don't know why I'm asking, you said this. In general, this is also one of the reasons men find youth attractive. You want to blow up the internet? I'll blow up the internet right effing now. The reason 18 and 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25-year-olds is because they've been through less dick. People say, oh, you can't say that, but yes, I can. A 19-year-old is more attractive than a 26-year-old woman, and I'll tell you why. Because that 26-year-old has talked to more guys, been to the club more times, been effed and dumped more times, more arguments, more mess, more for me to clean up. That is misogyny.
Why?
Because you are encouraging a mindset about 25-year-old women that makes them sound out to be infinitely less desirable than 18, 19-year-olds, and having effectively been having too much sex to be taken in a more respectful way.
Well, firstly, even if that was the case, that wouldn't be misogyny.
But what did you mean by what you said?
That's not misogyny because it's not anti-women. I'm saying that an 18 or a 19-year-old woman would be more desirable.
Pretty anti-25-year-old woman.
Anti-25-year-old women we can argue, but not misogyny.
Well, that's misogyny.
No, it's not.
Well, being anti any woman at all is misogyny.
Not when I'm saying that women are beautiful and attractive at a certain age and saying the age.
You're saying 18, 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25.
Well, than ageist perhaps, but misogynistic absolutely
Is that
not.
But you just accepted it was misogyny.
No, I didn't. You said it was misogyny. I'm telling you, no, it's not.
So you don't think if you're saying slightly hateful things about a 25-year-old...
That's not slightly hateful.
Well, it is. You think you say that to a woman's face if she's 25?
It's not slightly hateful. When
you would go up to a 25-year-old woman and tell her exactly what I just read out.
Why would I walk up to a random 25-year-old woman?
Because you said it in public on the internet, and it's been listened to and watched by millions and millions of young, impressionable boys.
Correct. There was a large panel. There was a conversation. There was hours long of conversation. There were feminists attacking men for toxic masculinity and attacking me and saying things. And I said things back which were going to antagonize them. Which you've done yourself a bunch of times.
I think a lot of allegations of toxic masculinity are not toxic.
Correct.
I do think that kind of sentence that I just read out, that paragraph, is actually toxic. If you genuinely mean that, and you say you wouldn't say it to a woman's face, but you said it in public about women of that age, I do think that's misogynist. And I think you probably do too.
I don't think it's misogynistic. I understand why it can be insulting.
So you wouldn't say it to a woman's face?
Well, it depends. You're making out like I'm walking around the street going up to random 25-year-olds.
Well, effectively, you're doing it to tens of millions of people online. There's no difference.
Not at all. We're discussing a topic. We were discussing the ideal age of a man.
Should young boys, right, in their teens, are you comfortable that they would have that mindset? Be honest.
I think that young boys in their teens lack life experience. They lack nuance. And they need to be very, very careful what they're digesting online, whether it's my content or anybody else's, who protect and provide for the people close to them, are fantastic for the economy. And I'm certainly not the worst influence out here, Piers. You have Lil Nas twerking on the devil on music videos, which our children are digesting. You have, drill artists singing about stabbing people to death in the middle of a knife crime epidemic. You have rabid, psychopaths on whether the right or the left announcing violence on the other side. You have all these insanities in the world. And because I sit here and say, perhaps. Now you've laid it out and it offended you, I understand.
I didn't say it offended.
Okay, cool.
I just read you the thing.
You read things that you say they can be offensive and some people are offended.
Well, some people definitely were offended.
Absolutely. That's fine.
And honestly, I think some of the things you said were genuinely offensive and misogynist.
Okay, so they offended you. Like I said earlier. So they offended you, which is fine. I said they offended you, you interrupted me, and now you're saying they offended you, which is fine. But the point I'm trying to make is this. I'm not the devil. There are certainly worse people than me. And
I don't disagree
and they exist.
With that.
And I'm saying that my core tenets for the people who don't understand me are self-accountability, so I'm accountable for everything I've ever said. My core tenets are responsibility, so I'm responsible for everything I've said. My core tenets are traditional masculinity to a degree, which involves protecting and providing for women. And I'll make another point here that needs to be said. The number of women who have stood up and stuck up for me is ignored. Thousands of women are making videos saying, I've met Andrew Tate, he's such a nice guy. I wish I had a man like Andrew Tate who felt responsible to protect and provide for me. You know what? I do belong to my husband. That's why I married him and I love him. We ignore the thousands of women who stood up and stood by me and said everything I said is true. And we're taking a very vocal minority who have taken things I've said and are pretending to be absolutely and utterly devastated by them for some reason.
Yeah, I'll see what your response.
That's the first thing. Yeah, it is nothing to do with me. The fact that a 14-year-old girl took her life is truly sad. The world we live in today is the fact that something like that happened is almost mind-blowing to me. That's truly sad. I actually feel sad inside to see something like that. This fact that
if Mike Tyson walks in here and tells you he's going to teach you how to box and says you can't fight, you're a pussy. If that upsets you, then you can't learn, right? It's Mike Tyson. Just shut up and listen. Yeah. If someone, Richard and me, comes along and says, Andrew, you don't know shit, you're a dumbass and you're a brokey, I'm going to sit there and go, okay, maybe I'm a brokey. Elon, tell me something, right? I'll listen. But if you're going to sit there and go, don't call me names and not listen, you're never going to get anywhere, right? You don't become the master unless you're very, very good at being a student. And I've always been very, very good at knowing when to shut up. But I've got to a point in my life now where I don't have to shut up ever. So I don't. I don't know how a man is waking up and he's happy without money.
Well, I think I've written books on money, done a lot of exploration. I actually think the rhetoric that money doesn't make you happy and life isn't all about money is part of the propaganda of what you call the matrix in indoctrinating us to concede and just enough so that we can pay our 50% taxes and pay our interest on all our loans. And then when we die, pay 40% of everything that we own. Because if we know that money makes us really happy, we'll go and find it, which means becoming an entrepreneur and getting out of the system. And then that is freedom.
Oh, absolutely. So I think the smartest thing the rich people ever did was convince the broke people that money is. I think that's nail on the head. All the rich people like, don't worry, guys. Don't worry. Money doesn't make you happy, guys. I'm going to keep mine. But don't worry, it doesn't make you happy. I promise. I'm sad. Promise. You're sad? Yeah, we both are. Good luck. Biggest scam alive. Because money is freedom. It's freedom to drive what you want, eat where you want, go where you want. It's freedom to sleep with who you want. I just described it. If you want a beautiful woman, you need money. Like, money is freedom. If you don't want to be a slave, which is,
it's freedom to say no. Money is freedom to say no.
It's freedom to talk the truth online and be put in jail and come out and still have supercars. My man has a Ferrari. Okay. I wish I had a Ferrari. Okay. They don't sit there and go for an hour. How did he get a Ferrari? It doesn't cross that part is the part they don't want to do, right? They just go, oh, he has a Ferrari. Wish I had a Ferrari. And they go back to TV. Yeah. And that's why they lose. There's a lot of men who think what I think. They can't say it. They lose their jobs. So you want to say money doesn't buy happiness. Well, then you're saying you're happy to be a slave because only money is going to give you freedom. When they want to try and attack you, like they've attacked me, they take your money away on purpose. So absolutely, money's freedom to have an opinion now. So it's true. So yeah, exactly. So money absolutely is happiness because freedom is a bare minimum requisite to happiness. Unless you're happy being a slave. And you're right about what rich people did. They tried to convince all the people at the bottom that money isn't the answer. You're never going to be more happy poor. You may as well be rich. I can't think of many scenarios where being rich was a detriment over being poor. There's not many. Even if money can't help you, you may as well have it, right? So I completely agree with you. I think money is a bare minimum requirement for happiness, especially if you're a masculine man who wants to outcompete. Then you need money because money is basically everything. I think money is the most important thing in the world is health because you have nothing if you're dying. Second thing is family and friends who you love. And the third is money because it's everything else. I think everybody knows that the system and the path they lay out for you is not a path that's going to lead to where you want to be. And I didn't know what the other path was, but that intrinsic distrust for the system and that distrust for the things they wanted me to do made me search for other avenues. And then I found them, right? And if you speak to the people who are richest, if you speak to the people you know, this is for everyone at home as well. If you speak to the people you know who have the most money and go up to them and say, hey, what made you rich? None of them say school. Do any of them say school made me rich? I got an A in GCSE. Like, who gives a shit? It's bullshit, right? So it's all indoctrination. So I knew it was indoctrination. And for that reason, I was always searching. And if you're searching, you're going to find. When I was 15, my first job was carrying boxes of fish from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. And I would run to work. So I'd leave the house at 6. I'd run an hour. I'd get there at 7. I'd finish work at 5. And then I'd run from there to the fight gym, get to the fight gym. I'd get there early before training started. I'd eat food next to the gym and then I'd train and then I would get a ride home from my girlfriend at the time. So my entire life was 17 hours a day of just running and working and carrying boxes and fighting. And I can't be more thankful. You know, I don't want to be arrogant, but I'm going to. I really do believe I've had the perfect life. Now, I don't know if that's actually because I have the perfect life or if I framed it that way, but I am so thankful for everything. I am so glad I got to grow up poor because I wouldn't appreciate money if I didn't. And I'm so glad I got to spend my 20s, that decade where you're as powerful as possible fighting. And I'm so glad I've had difficult jobs and no money. And I'm so glad I couldn't pay my bills so that I appreciate now all the money I have. And I'm so glad I had the parents I had. And I'm so glad all these bad things happened to me, but enough good things happened. And I just really feel like it's been the perfect path. And I think back on that job. I think back on how my life was back then. And I realized that I wouldn't appreciate any of the things I have now without them. There's absolutely no light without dark. The best thing about being rich is talking about how you used to be poor. Otherwise, it's no point being rich at all. You're not going to enjoy any of it. You're going to end up addicted to drugs and doing crazy stuff, right? Yep. The reason I'm so happy, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I'm happy every day, I'm pretty emotionally balanced, is because I wake up in a big ass house and I realize that I don't have to worry about rent the next day and everything's fine. I see it that there is so much money everywhere. And even I can't get it all. So I want as many people around me as possible to be rich because now I'm at least around more money. If I send a message inside of HU and said, I want to raise $100 million amongst my students themselves, I can do it. I've got my own venture capital firm now. I was like, boom. All right. 100 million. Let's buy a yacht. Here, dish it up. Bang, bang, bang. Done. Yeah. Because all of them are making money. I want to know as many people with money as possible. So if I know a way to teach people how to make money, and I'll also make money for teaching them how to make money, and I now have people who I can talk to so I have access to the money they make, why would I not teach them how to make money? Now, the reason no one else has really done this is because I don't think anyone else knows how to make money as well as I do. And also nobody else can really prepare and build a platform like we have or do the work it takes. HU is extremely difficult to launch. It's not easy to find 18 professors who know what they're talking about, build an online platform. Then you need the payment gateways. And then even when all that's done, then you got to find a way to get people to join. You got to advertise it. I don't have to advertise anything because I'm top G. Everyone knows, but it's difficult, right? So we don't even have any competition. There's nowhere else on the internet you can go and spend $49 and sit for an entire month learning from 18 millionaires how to make money. There's nowhere else on the planet. Yeah. It's the only place. So we have no competition. So we're about to conquer the world. We're about to conquer the world. And that's a good thing.
But how does one free their mind without getting into Hustlers University?
Well, if they're watching this podcast, it's a good thing. It's a good start, right? Hustlers University is the answer for the people whose minds are already free. Once your mind is free, once you understand that your chance of making money with the traditional route they've laid out for you is zero. Going to school, going to college, going to university, getting in debt, getting a job with school debt, getting a mortgage with mortgage debt, getting a car with car debt, in debt to the banks, working at a job with the pay rise comes very sparsely, inflation's out of control, the property, you're never going to pay it off, you're never going to get rich. You're going to stay broke forever. Once your mind understands that the system and the path they've told you towards riches, which is get a good job, get good grades, get a mortgage, is a lie, then you need an alternative, which is Hustlers University. We'll teach you how to make money for $49. It costs less than lunch. We'll teach you how to make money and you can escape the matrix. But first, your mind needs to be free. You need to understand that the path they're giving you leads nowhere. Some people still believe in it.
Bro, they do because sorry, Mom, I'm going to actually say this. She's going to watch the podcast later. But, I told her not to take the vaccine. I did tell her that. She's saying, no, everybody's taking it. My brother in London, he's saying that, I can't fly out of the country if I don't take it. I said, Mom, you don't need to take it. Yeah. Why? You're absolutely healthy. Yeah. You haven't got the C, man. Yeah, you haven't. Yeah. I didn't get it. Yeah. Nothing's going to happen to anybody. It's just fucking flu. Yeah. A couple of days later, we see that I think the CDC announced that it treated like a flu. Yeah. I was like, what just happened? And she sent that to me. I said, why are you sending it to me? It was me who actually was telling you not to do it.
And this is the thing. Some people are still stuck inside the matrix, especially the older generation. I feel like the younger generation have woken up to a lot of the lies. But another reason why is because, I mean, have this cough bug to answer that. The matrix didn't betray the older generation as much as it betrayed our generation. So the path to wealth we just laid out worked for them. You could go to school, get good grades, get a good job, get a mortgage, get a house, pay the house off. Inflation has made the house price go up. You've made a bunch of money. Yeah. So the matrix did good by you.
Definitely.
The system wasn't completely corrupted. What did we talk about earlier about the cyclical nature of systems? And when the new king comes in, he has good intentions at the beginning.
Changing world order, right? Ray Dalio explained it.
That's right. The king comes in with good intentions before he ends up lying and lying and lying. Everyone's intentions start good.
Correct.
So the matrix, when it was all set up in this mortgage system, was probably set up with a very good intention. And it worked for a lot of people. Now it's all a scam. But because it worked for your parents, they're like, oh, you should go to school and save up and buy a house. That's what I did. Well, you did it because the cost of a house was
twice your yearly wage, and now it's 100 times my yearly wage, and it's not even the same game we're playing. That's like saying you should just jump over him because I played checkers, but we're playing chess. They're different games. So the older generation still have some belief in the Matrix because they haven't been deceived. They haven't been tricked as badly as the younger generation have. This is why they believe in it. And that's why your parents will tell you the path to wealth that they followed, because it worked. But it doesn't work anymore. Now we're living in a society where you have basically two choices. The path to wealth that they've laid out to you is a lie and a scam, and it's never going to work. You're never going to get rich that way, and you know it. Working hard in some corporate job is never going to make you rich, ever.
Do you actually like property? I'm confused here because I've seen a lot of content where you talk about not owning your own home, but you talk about having property. So do you like property or not? I've also seen you talk about seizure of property rights.
Yeah.
So do you like property or not?
Well, firstly, the reason I say rent your own home is because it allows you to be flexible. I think that the most adaptable of the species survive, and rent is very flexible. It's flexible because, one, you can move easily. Maybe you get a job opportunity in Japan, you have to bounce. Or maybe your country's about to lock down because of the common cold and you don't want to be stuck in your house. Rent is flexible.
Or you can move out and rent it out.
Completely. Well, that's if you own it, right? We
Yeah.
go into that, but then you have to find a tenant.
That's easy.
Well, perhaps that is
I've got
easy.
1,250.
Okay, perfect. Then let me change it. Then perhaps you don't want to have anything to do with that country anymore and you have to sell it, and that's not quick, right? Another flexibility you have with rent is not paying it.
I've got tenants who don't do that.
You know better than me the law in the West.
Well, yeah.
You don't have to pay it for 6 months.
Pro tenant, yeah.
So you can just not pay it.
Yeah.
So maybe you're in a situation where...
But you can also vet a tenant properly and then...
Correct.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, we're talking about flexibility. Darwin said the most adaptable of the species survives. This remains true. If you own a home, you are obliged to do X things. You can't not pay the mortgage, you'll lose the home. If you own the home, you have to upkeep it, etc. I'm saying if you rent a house, you can move if you get a better opportunity. You can move if the government becomes tyrannical or if crime gets out of control or something happens in your area which you're never going to know. And thirdly, a serious option is not paying it. And I don't want people to misunderstand me here. I'm not saying don't pay your rent. I'm saying if you have some information, let's say, the bull run that just happened, all that crap's over. But people were making money from thin air for crypto. Let's say you had some reliable information from people you trusted. Let's say those people have been right 100% of the time, and they said if you bought a particular coin, it was going to 1,000x. You could have missed rent for a month. You could have paid it later. That's flexibility, right? So flexibility is also super important. So I always say the average person should rent where they live. I know that's strange because not everyone can rent it. Someone has to own it. The people who own houses need to own them the way you own. If you own 1,250, you're doing very well. The way I own a house, it's not a mortgage. It's just, give me this, beep, put on the card, bang, done. I own it, done. I don't live there. There's no work for me. If I had to sell it, I'd never need to sell it quick. I'd never need the money fast. It's something, it's just an asset. But that's why I say most people should rent until they're wealthy enough to buy it in cash. If you can't buy a house outright in cash, you shouldn't buy it. And even then, if you buy it, you need to be very careful. You need to make sure that government is never going to turn on you. That area is never going to become downtrodden. And also understand that owning a house isn't free. There's property taxes, there's maintenance, there's upkeep. A lot of the time, by the time you pay all that shit, it's not far off rent.
Why would you not turn the bank system on themselves and get a mortgage on the property and leverage the bank's money and then have better opportunity cost of capital rather than buying houses for cash?
Absolutely, sure. That is a way you could do things. But now you're indebted to a bank. And it's fine if you have money from the sky, you can make money anywhere, that's fine, right? But if you are working a job, let's say in central London, and you owe money to this bank now because you've done it this way, that bank has a degree of control over you. You can't just quit your job. You can't just move. Things become very complicated. It just destroys your flexibility. To answer your question earlier, I don't own any property. I don't own anything. I own this suit, and that's it. So I don't own any property. Some friends of some trusts with some companies which are registered from Singapore may own some property.
Right.
I have the keys to, but I don't own anything.
So you have some assets under your control that are property, but you don't own them.
I don't have any. The Matrix hates me. I don't have anything. But I have some keys to some houses. And yeah, of course, they appreciate. Of course, you can rent them. I completely get it. But the truth is this. Property, like many other things, is very successful for some, but for most, I think it wrecks them. It's player versus player, like I said, in everything. Doesn't matter if it's a cryptocurrency, which you buy at $1 and sell at $10. If you sold at $10, someone bought at $10. Someone gets wrecked. It's the same with property. You've done fantastically well from it. Congratulations. My property has never lost me a penny. Sorry, if I owned property, it would have never lost me a penny. Congratulations to me. But there's a whole bunch of people who get up, finish university, get a mortgage they can barely afford, work their ass off, pay huge interest rates, sitting there paying, and either a financial crisis comes and wrecks them, or they lose the home in the end because they couldn't keep up with the payments, or they finally get it paid off and they're so old that their life's fucking shit anyway. So property is not the be all and end all to anything. And in fact, I would recommend to most people, and if you look at most people's finances out here on the street, if you were to take 1,000 people who are watching this right now and look at their finances, 950 of them would be stupid to buy a house. There's 50, it's a good idea. But for the majority, it's not.
Could you say that about any, sorry to interrupt you, I think it's the first time in 3 hours, so sorry.
No problem.
Couldn't you say that about 1,000 set of case studies of any human being?
Yes, you could.
1,000 of them shouldn't go to your martial arts class because only 50 of them will survive.
Yes, you could. But the difference is the Matrix tries very hard to push the idea of property. Some of the other things...
But you can play the Matrix at its own game.
Completely. 50 of them can. 950 can't. And this is my point. My point is that the Matrix says do property, do property, do property. That is only applicable to a very small percentage. It's not applicable to everybody. The Matrix doesn't say do other things that are applicable to everybody. No. It tells everybody the same blueprint. And that blueprint used to be applicable to a lot more people. I don't think this was actually as deliberate as people understand. 50, 60 years ago, property was fantastic for almost everybody. 1 year's wage, you get a house. That house cost 75 grand. Now it's 450 grand. Fantastic. You did good. Absolutely. It's different now that the house is 450 grand, you're earning 40 grand a year. Now it's a very different scenario. So when your parents or older people say, yeah, do property, it was great back then. Now I don't think it's nearly as competitive as it was. I think that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. I think the poor are getting outpriced of most assets. I think that some of the biggest mistakes poor people can make or middle income people can make is chase assets they can't simply can't fucking afford. And the only way they can do it is to indebt themselves to a bank with interest and enslave themselves for X amount of years, destroy their flexibility to try and pull off owning one property. And owning one ain't going to make you rich anyway. You got to own as many as you do. And what I'm saying is, there's a small percentage of people who benefit from property, just like there's a small percentage of people who benefit from crypto or stocks. How many people lose in the stock market?
Most.
Exactly.
How many people lose in Forex? Nearly all.
All. Correct. Yeah. So this is the same with every investment. But the reason I'm only attacking property is because property is the one everyone says is safe as houses, good for everybody. No, it is not. It depends on your circumstance. That's my problem with property. In my scenario, your scenario, how can we lose? If I buy a house for $5 million and I'm never, ever, ever going to need that money, I can wait until the day I die to sell it. Then I'm always going to make money. I go, the property prices have crashed to 3 million. Then I don't sell it.
Yeah.
Who cares? It doesn't matter to me. If I had a mortgage on it, it'd matter. It was my only property, it'd matter. If inflation is 20%, my wages are going up 1% a year. All this shit matters. But not to me, not to you. We're the 50. But 950 people here need to join the real world and learn how to make money a different way. Because we teach you how to make money with nothing. If you make money with nothing, you can't lose. That's the beauty of it. You can lose if you invest in a house. You can't lose if you don't spend any money.
But if you raise money from other people, because money is infinite and everywhere, and partner up with someone and put that into property, that's money out of thin air. And then you buy, hold, die, you can't lose.
To a degree.
And inflation. One thing we haven't talked about yet. You have more good debt mortgages. Inflation's paying 20% that down a year for you.
Absolutely not true. And I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody who's ever bought a house is lost. I only talk about this because the majority of my audience are 18 to 25, 26. They're being told by people much older than them that they buy a house, they'll be financially secure. And I'm telling them that is simply not the case. And also, there's a bunch of intangible disadvantages, like the absolute inflexibility of the house. I don't know in your experiences, but people I know have spent 2-3 years trying to sell a house. 2 years is eternity. Eternity. 2 years ago, we were locked in our houses. 2 years ago is forever. So if you're going to accept that degree of inflexibility, if you're going to accept that degree of obligation, I think for many people that is a mistake. I think there's better ways to make money, and I think that renting is a lot safer for people. Especially now we're living in a world where a lot of money is made online. I have so many people who can make money online. If you're making money online, even living in a Western country is stupid. Go to Thailand. Live for a fraction. Be safer. Not get stabbed. Like even living in the West in general is dumb if you're making money online, and more people are. So my point is nuanced. There's absolutely exceptions to the rule. There's absolutely scenarios in which I'm totally wrong. It's a nuanced point I'm trying to condense, and I'm saying that property used to be the cure-all for everybody. Get a normal job, work in a factory, pay off your house, be good. It's not like that anymore.
No, pension money is not going to be yours, is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like that anymore. And also, what did we say earlier about competitiveness? We said that there are people out there in the world competing with me, and there's people out there in the world competing with you. You're a property shark. You just said it. You're an animal. They're competing with you. Like you can pay more for it and overpay for it because you know you're going to have whatever. You can buy the houses next door and put shit tenants in them. Like if you want to fuck somebody, you could. So they're also competing with sharks. And this is the point I'm making. The reason I'm anti-property is because often it's a 24-year-old guy who just got his first good job out of uni. He might be able to, if he eats ramen noodles for the next 15 years, pay off this fucking council terraced house in Liverpool. And I'm like, bro, that is not going to save your life. You're going to be 50 in a shit house. That's dumb.
So are you saying to earn your money from a standing start, putting money into property is probably not good, but when you've got wealth, parking it into property is good?
Correct. I think that if you have a lot of wealth, parking your money into assets in general is good. I think that property is a pretty safe asset overall, globally. It does go through some ups and downs, but property performs, it's certainly a fantastic place. I think as a way to generate wealth, there's some people who say it can be done. That's fine. But I think it's very inflexible. I've always preferred flexibility. I think we now live in a world where a lot of money can be made online, a lot of money can be made from a phone, a lot of money can be made from a computer. And also, this all ties back into the very beginning where I said the ultimate bottom line of the world is violence. Property seizure is a perfect example. You mentioned property seizure.
Surely that's something I wanted to ask you. I feel like that's the last thing they'll take before a full-on fucking war. Like they'll take everything else first. They'll call in the gold. They'll, debase money. That'll all happen before your fucking house.
Well, if they're going to do it to the whole population, I agree. But if they're going to do it to an individual, I disagree. If you don't pay your parking ticket, they'll take your house. Sooner or later. May take a year, may take 2 years. They will take your house. So my question is this, do you own it? This is my problem with property. I own my house. Do you? If they can take it off you anytime you annoy them?
No. If you don't pay your mortgage for 3 months, you'll see you own your house.
Yeah, that's right. If you don't pay your taxes, see you own your house. If you don't wear a mask when they tell you to and you get a fine for not wearing a mask and you think that's injustice and you don't pay the fine and they add money to the fine, then it goes to court, you're supposed to turn up, you don't, they send a bailiff, you tell the bailiff to get fucked, they will take your house. So if you don't wear a mask, they take your house. So do you own it? This is a philosophical question and you can answer. Do you feel like you own your property? Because I would argue that you don't own shit.
Philosophically, I don't think I own anything.
Well, I would actually disagree with that again. I think that there are things you can own in this world.
Well, philosophically, though. You said philosophically.
Okay. Well,
like when I'm dead, I'll own nothing.
Well, that's true. Okay, then it was a hypothetical argument. It's a hypothetical point I'm making. When people say I own property.
No, I agree with you because I answered your question philosophically.
Yeah.
Don't think I own anything. You don't own your own property either as a structure. That's all we'll say. No, I don't think I own my property. I think I own the income it creates.
Correct.
And the capital appreciation I get.
I would say you own the income it creates when it's not in a bank, when it's in your hand for a while. You own it. Yeah.
But well, I always take the income. The income comes to me. Now, obviously, if what happened to you happened to me,
then you wouldn't own it.
Then I could be fucked.
Yeah, you wouldn't own the property. If you got canceled to the level I got canceled, you would own none of that property and you would not own the income either because your bank would be frozen. You would own none of it.
What if the assets weren't in my name?
Well, then you might be okay. But this is my point. My point is but you're a shark who can afford complicated legal structures. Joe Schmo is getting a mortgage in his name.
But you teach Joe Schmoes to become sharks, don't you? That's what you do.
That's the goal, yeah. But this is when I say I'm anti-property, it's because of the exact scenario I described earlier. 24-year-old buying a house, get a mortgage in his name, he owns it, and I say, listen, my friend, one, that's not going to make you rich. Two, you don't even own it.
But I mean, owning it though, like, what's that all about? Why does it matter if you own it? I like you have a lot of cars. I don't have 30, but I think I have 6 or 7. I don't own a lot of them. I don't own my Aventador. Yeah. I don't own it. I don't want to own it.
Completely. I understand and that there's a financial benefit to doing that. I get it. But property is something different because your cars are a toy and property is supposed to be an investment. And the point is that the whole idea of home ownership is a false paradigm. They're
I think we're now moving towards saying the same thing because I agree. I think selling you of getting into debt, the average American pays £600,000 in their lifetime in interest. The house that they've got you in debt in is a trap, and then you pay half of your money in tax, and then you pay £600,000 in your life in interest. Yeah. I think liberation is when you turn property into an investment.
I agree with you. And for me, it's just a philosophical thing where I think that anything that can be taken off of you, you don't own. So for me, once again, you're in a unique scenario as am I. But if you're Joe Schmo, Owning it is never going to make you rich in any considerable, serious amount of time. 20 years from now, you might get hit by a bus. That's forever. I don't think that long term. All of my plans are 3 to 4 months maximum. And the benefit of renting it versus ownership, well, you can get kicked out either way and you lose all your flexibility. What's the point? Now, once you sit in there going, I have $7 million in the bank, I don't know what to do with it. Sure. Buy some property. Of course, put together a complicated legal structure and own some property. Absolutely. But I don't think that applies to most people who come to me and say, my mom said I should buy a house. Well, you're a dummy. Your mom did something that doesn't work anymore and you're still a dummy.
Thing is, sometimes your parents love you so much, they give you bad advice.
Well, they give you the advice that worked for them.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. It's worked for them. So absolutely, why would they believe it doesn't work anymore? They were putting money in a savings account and getting interest on the money, like 4 or 5% interest on the money, and then buying a house for 1 year's salary that went up 10x. I'm sure it sounds like a great idea. Imagine if it was still that way right now, I'd tell everyone to buy a fucking house. But it isn't. And then you add into the fact that the government is getting more and more tyrannical. You add into the fact that violence is the bottom line. You add into the fact they will take your fucking house off you. What did they do in Canada to the truckers? When the Canadian truckers got tired of COVID, they went and they protested and they lost their houses and lost their cars and lost their fucking pets. They euthanized their dogs. You know that?
I didn't know that.
They euthanized their dogs.
I knew that they clawed money out of bank accounts.
They euthanized their dogs and stole their money from their bank accounts. So a man who worked his entire life driving across Canada in a truck, who was a proud home owner, found out very fucking quickly that you don't own anything. It's a scam. So for me, especially as somebody in my situation, my precarious situation, which we've described at length, somebody who is an enemy of the matrix, considering that property is the most controlled matrix asset that exists, considering that if they could take it off me, they fucking would, I need to find assets which are very, very difficult to seize.
Decentralized hard assets, you mean?
Just, there are a whole bunch of things in the world which are actually very difficult to take.
Like?
And property is not one of them.
Yeah.
There's other things.
Like?
One is people not knowing you own things.
Yeah.
Protecting the fact that you even own it. Which is
shut people like me up asking about it on podcasts.
Well, exactly. That's the first. That's the answer, right? One is protecting the fact that you own it. I mean, I don't know about your particular scenario, but in Florida, in America, in California and in Canada, they were piercing LLCs. They're piercing LLCs to see who owns the LLC to seize the property. So once again, the law says if it's owned by a company that they can't take it or they can't see who owns the property in the company. Yes, they fucking can. Piss them off.
Yeah.
If you piss them off, they'll throw all the rules out the window. The same reason they're going to kill me. Murder's bad, but they throw the rules out the window when you annoy them. So this is my exact point. So I just personally could never sleep at night knowing, I got 100 million in property. I'm good. Because I'd be like, I don't have anything. I have to be quiet and I have to be careful. And if they don't like me, they'll get me. That to me doesn't feel like ownership. Ownership is they can't take that off of me. That's true ownership. So you don't own property. It's a scam. It's a lie.
I enjoyed that discussion.
And I'm not saying you can't make a bunch of money from it. I'm not even saying that.
You're more talking about people who don't have a lot of disposable, tying a noose around their head of owning their own home.
Correct. And then being in a position where they might lose it anyway if they don't completely live their life as a slave and pay every fucking parking ticket.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean, because how do they really enforce parking tickets? Let me give you a quick story. I bought an Aston Martin DBS 3 months ago. I pulled up outside the hotel. I bought it in London. I pulled up at the hotel. I parked in the double yellow. I left it there. Traffic warden was right there. So I'm going to give you a ticket. And I said, bro, have you ever seen James Bond look for parking? Give me a fucking ticket. Don't care. Put a ticket on it. Went in the hotel. Stayed in the hotel come on, I'm busy. Stayed in the hotel for 4 days. Ticket. Came out to a window. It was on my Instagram before they deleted it. A window of tickets. Now, how do they enforce those tickets? Well, we said they'll take your home off you, right? I don't own anything. I don't even own that car. And the car's not in the country anymore. It's sitting in my house in Bulgaria. So now what the fuck are you going to do? So I got thousands of pounds of parking tickets, and guess what happened? Nothing. Zero. Because I don't play by the stupid rules the Matrix tells me to play by. If I was Joe Schmo and I ignored them, I would lose my home. But me, I could turn up, tell them to get fucked, and do whatever I want. And what you'll actually learn is that much like parking tickets, pretty much all laws on earth and all rules on earth have there's an economic level to which you must adhere, and there's an economic level to which you don't have to adhere. Anything that's financial in and of itself is basically saying it's okay for rich people to do anyway. Let's say I agreed to pay the fine. Cool. I didn't have to look for parking. I paid $3,000. That's worth 5 minutes of my time. So it's basically saying it's okay for a price. So it's okay for rich people. It's not okay for poor people. Whenever there's a fine as a punishment, they're basically saying no poors, no brokies, where rich people can do it. Look at banks. They make billions of dollars breaking the rules and pay $1 million fine. It's okay for the rich. Not allowed to do it with the poor. If you do that, if you pull off some fraud as a brokey, guess what happens? Jail time. Do the bankers go to jail? Fucking never. This is the whole way the whole entire world works. So extrapolating that out, yes, at a certain economic level, there are things you can do and Aikido you can pull that make property fantastic. But as a brokey, it's bullshit. That's the point I'm making.
Hey, before you go, if you want to watch the full uncut interview with Andrew Tate, no holds barred like you've never seen before, you can watch it here. And before you go, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell on. And remember, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything.
You have to be good enough on your worst day to beat your opponent on his best day. On the day he feels motivated and gets out of bed and wants to fight and he's raring to go and he's on the top of his game and you feel the absolute opposite. You want to lay in bed. You don't want to move. You don't want to go anywhere, but you have to get up and have to fight this man. You have to be good enough to beat him anyway. You have to be that good.
Don't hold on, get the lit down. I'm on that, so I don't tell you what the is flying. I got my they go double step, shakes, and that's the same. It's something in the head. I got a bullet with your eyes, gonna provoke you. So close your eyes as I say this clock up to your fist and in your mouth. So get ready for the blood. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, kill.
Sorry, that's just the sound of me being monumentally rich. Despite the fact they're trying to stop me from being monumentally rich. They're trying so hard to stop me being rich. Wait, what's that I can hear? Is that a DBS 770 that my brother's driving? Yeah, it must be. Oh, hello, Tristan. Jail, please.
Who has? Just us two. Oh, you're full. Oh.
Nathan and Andrew have been looking for a cheap hotel for well over an hour, but haven't been able to find anywhere within their budgets.
My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm.
Hello.
Hi.
You look really nice.
Thank you. Let's do two kisses. 1, 2.
Oh, very nice to meet you. What's
Very
your
nice to
name?
meet you. Andrew Tate. What's your name?
Andrew. Nice to meet you. Triangles. How did you get here today?
I flew in.
Flew in. Different? Something different?
Yeah. Welcome to that.
You're in on a jet. Who is this guy?
I don't know what things in my mind. What all these if you get out there, one behind us, it's for the British. This all the is my field of my entities. I feel it's every this area of space. I know that
Anyone who knows me will tell you, if I'm awake, I'm working. The second I wake up, I'm on my laptop till the second I go to sleep. First thing I do when I wake up is check my phone. I only enjoy work. I like to work. I like to feel proud of myself. I don't want to be happy. I want to feel proud of myself. Tristan, back me up. Have I ever said I need a day where I just need a day off? Have you ever heard me say I need a day off? No. Ever.
It's a nice room. No, my hotel room was broken into. I've been told my hotel room was broken into. And I know who broke into it. You know who broke into my hotel room? No. Get Andrew. I gave Andrew the key, and he broke the door.
I'm only passionate about things that massively improve my life if I win my current battle against the Matrix. Once I crack the Matrix and destroy it, I will become the most powerful man on earth. Relevance to achieve interviews and get views they would never normally get to spread hateful propaganda. If you can't afford me, you're going to have to go back to just lying about me without speaking. Because God knows the truth. I know the truth. Most of the world knows the truth. And I genuinely believe that Allah is the best of planners. And whatever happens to me, regardless of whether I am martyred, regardless of whether they put a bullet in my brain, I know what I have done is good for the world. And the things I will do will continue to be good for the world.
I have absolutely everything I could ever possibly desire. And if I wanted something that I couldn't have, I guarantee you could speak again in a few months and I
Legends have always been forged in fire. You little dorks at home don't understand that every single man you can name from history was born from pain, born from fire, born from doing the things other men can't do. Respect is on the other side of fear. You're afraid. I'm not. That's why I'm different. I am built fucking different.
You know,